Okay, nice. Thank you so much, guys, for joining. So starting today, we are going to see DataWeave. We will play with different functionalities and functions, DataWeave functions. So far, most of what we were working was like drag and drop. We didn't write that much code. We wrote some SQL and some DataWeave transformation to some extent also. But in starting today, we are going to spend some classes and master DataWeave in great detail. So in this class, we are going to review some of the functions we saw in previous classes and understand them better and see their capabilities in detail. And then we will add also some new functions we didn't see before. Then starting next class, we will also go in detail. So in DataWeave, it has different modules. The core module is what we are going to see today. The other modules, we have to load them first before we use them. We'll see how to load modules and what the functions are under each module and what they do. But today we will start first with the core module that doesn't need any importing. And the other thing that I want to say here is it is good if you spend enough time practicing DataWeave, because if you learn one scripting language, learning another scripting language, the learning curve is quite easier. If you master one, moving to another, if you want to learn another scripting language, let's say if you want to learn Python, it is transferable. I mean, most of the functionalities, they have similarities. Like, for example, if you are processing some array or some string and so on in DataWeave, there are similar functions also in another scripting language. So if you just master one, it helps you to learn another one also if you want to learn too. So it is good to practice it. And the other thing is, it is not really difficult. They are short functions. You don't write very verbose and long lines. So if you just practice, you will really understand it. You don't need to remember every function. It is just to understand it. And as you practice some of them, you will commit them to your brain. The rest, you just at work, we consult the documentation. But if you practice it, then when you see the documentation, you will quickly understand it. And to practice DataWeave, we can use DataWeave Playground. This one, if you just write online DataWeave Playground, like this one we have seen before. This is in the internet. You can do it. Opens this one, and we have the input explorer here. So our payload, we are going to put it here, and this is a script. The code we write in here, and the output will show here. So this is online. If you want to also, especially if you want to work when you don't have internet, when you are away from your home somewhere and you don't have internet there, or if you want it to be in your computer, you can use the Docker image that I shared in the channel. So this video in the Telegram channel, this video you can consult it. It is easy. It shows step by step how to download it. So I have in my laptop, I have it installed in my laptop, and I can just open it. Like if I do localhost 999, this is the port I gave, it will open the same thing. So if you see, this one and this one are very similar. But the difference is this one is online. In here, I have installed it to my computer. So you can, either way, you can use an online one, or you can install it to your computer, whichever works for you. Okay, so now I think I can minimize this one. I don't need it. And let me decrease zoom level here. It is 150, maybe 125. Okay, I guess I will adjust it. So, okay. So today we are reviewing DataWeave. DataWeave is, we have seen this before, DataWeave is a scripting language in MuleSoft. It is used for data transformation and querying data. And it is good if you really understand it, if you practice it. And as I said, also, once you practice one scripting language, it helps for others, scripting languages as well. So it is a good thing. Okay, so today we will start with reviews. So I have questions. We are going to do the questions together and explain concepts together. So one of the functions we saw before was checking the data type. We saw different data types and also the size of an object. So we will start with that. I have a payload here. This document, I'm going to share it with you after the class and also add a link to it in the blog. Okay, so I have a payload here. This payload, what you need to do is, if you want to practice with some payload like this, some data, you copy it. I don't need this payload equals to, just copy the data itself, then come here. Since most of you may use the online one, let me just use the online one too here. I will increase the zoom level so that you are able to see it. Let me know if it is not visible for you. So here I will come in the payload, I will modify it. Just paste this one. So you see, this is our payload. So the first question that we are reviewing is, what is the data type of the payload? And we saw, once I have the payload here, simply if I write type of, as you see, there is one of the advantages of this is there is auto-completion. When you start typing, if the function doesn't need importing, if it is in the core module, then it will tell you what are the functions. It will auto-complete it. So this is the only function that starts with type of. When I type, then it shows type of. Then I put the payload here. We say it. So payload. Sorry guys, my keyboard is not responding. Okay. So this is an array. This one we have seen before. If it is within square brackets, then it is an array and it has different elements in it. You see, this is one element. This one is another element. And these ones, they correspond to rows in Excel, we said, and we can check the type of each element. The type of each element should be an object, we said. If it is within square brackets, whether it has elements or not, it can also be empty. It is an array if it is within square brackets. If it is curly brackets, we say it should be an object. We can check that. So one way to check that is we can, for example, just take the first element, and to access the first element, what we do, we just access it using an index. It starts from 0, we said. In an array, we can access the element starting from 0, where 0 corresponds to the first one, then 1, the second one, and so on. Or if we want to start from the end, we put -1 and get back. -2 is the second from the last, and so on. So you see this one, if I do payload of 0, it gives me the first element, payload of 1, it gives me the second element. Now we can check the type of this one. It should say it is an object. So if we do like this, this is an object. Okay, perfect. Now, the next thing is, let's check what other question do we have? What's the data type of the payload? So this is an array. What's the size? Okay. What's the size of the payload? So it just, for that also, the function is size of the payload. It gives us, it is just a number of elements. So size of behaves differently when it is an array versus an object versus a number versus string, and so on. That one also we are going to see today. So you see the size of it gives us 2. We have 1, 2. Now let's do the same thing with the first element. If we have an object, we check type of, it gave us, it is an object. Now we can check size of, it should give us the number of key value pairs. So you see this object, it has 6 key value pairs, as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have seen size of and the type of. So if I get here, what's the size of the payload? This is 2. What is the data type of the first element of the payload? This is object. What's the data type of the name key of the first element of the payload? So let's see. I'll close this. So let's see the first element of the array. Now what it is saying is we have the value of the name key. We just access it using the dot. So if I start the dot, it shows me the different keys it has under it. So if I do name, it shows it is this airport name and it is a string. So if it is within quotes, it is string. Now we can check the type of this. It should say it is. It should say it is string. So if I do like this, as you can see, it shows string. S is uppercase, so this is string. So far the data types we have seen: array, object, and string. And we can check the size also. Size of this one, you can change it to size of to check the size. You will just understand these functionalities, what they do. But in the real world scenario, they have lots of applications. If you want to filter data or aggregate it based on some conditions and so on, these functions are very important. Now, when I do size of, as you can see, it shows 70. So it just counts each letter in the string. So if I remove this and show it again, so it has the size is 70. So we started from payload, okay? If it is payload, and if we do size of, it just gives us the number of elements in that payload. Size of should give us the number of elements, which is 2. Now, next, we check the size of the first element, which is this one. Now it counts key value pairs. If it is an array, it counts the number of elements. If it is an object, it counts the number of key value pairs. But if it is a string, it counts the number of letters. So for this one, the first one, as you can see, it is saying the number of characters, not only the letters, but it counts space as well. This space is also counted. So that's the difference. When we use size of, that's the difference between the different data types. Let's check if it what about if it is a number. So lat is a number. Now you can check that if I do replace this to type of and replace this to lat, you see it is number. So we have object, array, number that we have seen so far. Now, if you just check this size of, if it is a number, it is just one, even if you have decimal places or whatever. If it is a number, the size is 1. If it is a string, it is a number of characters. If it is an object, it is a number of key value pairs. If it is an array, it is a number of elements. So we are just reviewing, for those of you who joined late, we are just reviewing a couple of functions, DataWeave functions that we have seen before we start looking at new functions. Okay, so we were here. What's the data type of the name key of the first element? So this is string. What's the data type of the loan? This is number. As I said, I will share this document and you can practice with it. Number, string, object, and array. Okay, size 2. Now, what is the size of function? What does the size of function return with an array? It returns 2. An object. Okay, let's put it like this.
Number of objects.
Yeah, that's better. Yeah. So here, with an array, it returns the number of elements, number of
objects.
Elements. Yeah, it may not necessarily be object, right? It can be anything within the square bracket. You can have numbers, for example. I can create just here, if I do 1 to 10, like for example, this is an array from 1 to 10. We can put anything. It could be objects, it can be Boolean, it can be numbers, anything. So let's call them elements. So it returns with an array. It returns, let's put, I guess, with an array, it returns the number of elements. With an object, it returns the number of key value pairs. With string, it returns the number of characters with number just 1, whether it is decimal or whole number. So whether it is decimal or, thank you. Okay. Now, so we saw type of and size of. Now let's see, so the data types we have seen so far are array, object, string, number, and there are other data types related to date and time. So we have seen this now function again and again to save, for example, to name file based on date and time. So let's see what it gives again. If we do now, let's see what it looks like. I hope you can see it. This is output. So this is the date. And after the date, there is T, which stands for time. Then there is time here. Then there is Z here. So this is in the internet, and it gives in UTC time, and the Z corresponds to UTC time. I hope all of you know UTC time. So UTC time zone. So we have this UTC time zone. By default, it uses this time zone. Come on. Okay, let me go to images. Yep, it uses this one. So Z corresponds to this vertical line, to time on this vertical, on this shaded region. Then to the west is minus, to the east is plus, we know that. Okay, now we will check that. So as you can see, here we have date. When we do now, it gives us date, time, and the time zone. What about in my local DataWeave playground? So for that, I have localhost 99, which is this one. It is in my computer. Let's see if it uses my computer's. Oh, it still converts it to UTC time. As you can see, it is. This one is also in UTC time. Okay, we will see how to convert from one time zone to another time zone, get the time zone information, calculate date differences, add days, months, and so on. Okay, so now function, let's see. Now if I do for this one, close this. So now, if I do now type of here, it should give me date and time. Type of. So as you can see, it says this is date and time. If it doesn't have time zone information, it shows as local date time. We'll see that. But if it has time zone information, it simply says date time. So date time is one data type. Another data type like objects, arrays, and strings, numbers. Date time is one data type. So what is the data type? Here, date time. As you can see, date time. This answer. What is the time zone? This is UTC. By default, it is E2C. If it shows as Z, it is E2C. We will see how it looks like when it is for other regions. How do you get the year, month, hour, minute, and so on? We have this one. Let's see this one. So here, this is now. From here, the year is 2022. So we can simply, let's close this in bracket. And if we do like this, we see what it supports. It gives us all of these things. Like if we do year, you see this one. If we do, let's write an object. Okay, what we can do is, we have not yet seen saving it as a variable, not to repeat it again and again. Let's save it as a variable. So to create a variable, you simply write here var. You start with var, and let's call it date time now. Date time now is simply now. Now, once we have this, once we save it as a variable, we can create an object. Okay, so time now is simply the time now, right? And year is the time now dot year. So I think these have lots of applications in real world scenario. Like you may want to get the year, the month, or the hour of your data, and based on that, process other things down the line. So it is important to know these functions. And simply month is the time.month, and we have seen year, month, and hour, the time.hour. Let's see what else it supports. Day of week and the day of year also we have. And day of week, the time dot day of week, as you can see, and day of year is simply the time dot day of year. We have this one. So year, month, hour, day of week, day of year. Let's see what else we can add. The time dot, okay. We remove this and let's see what else it supports by removing this here. So if I add this, nanoseconds, milliseconds, seconds, minutes, there could be times where we want to trigger some jobs based on minutes and other things also. So we have day, let's add day, and I think that's enough. We have also quarter. So this one is day of year, and day is the time dot day, and let's see what quarter is. It should give us, what quarter is this now? Is it 3 or 4? The time now dot quarter. Okay, so as you can see, we can access these different, they are called messages. I mean, if you have datetime object, you can get all of this from that datetime object. So this one is the answer for this question. How do you get year, month, hour, minute, and second? Minute and second also the same thing. So let me copy this and paste it there so that we can practice with it. So I will click enter and paste it here and replace this to code. I have this extension that changes it look like code. Okay. So you can practice with this one and see for yourself. Okay, the next question is, let me see if I can indent this more. No. Okay. Fine. Okay, the next question is, how can you control the formats of the year, month, hour, etc.? So the question is here, as you can see, we have year, for example, 2022, but you may be interested only on, rather than getting 4 digits, you may be interested in getting 2. Months also, rather than getting a number, you may be interested in getting the month name, which could be September, spelled out completely, fully, or just SEP. Hour also, do you want it 24 format or 12 format? Day of week also, do you want a number or the name of the word day, and so on. So that's what it is asking. So for this one, I have added the link here for it. So give me a second. All the formats of the year, month, hour, and so on. Question D.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. So the question, you understand it, I hope. So the question is, rather than getting these formats, what if you want in a slightly different format? And you can get how to format it from here, but I will just show you some examples here. So what we can do for that is, like, for example, let's say year, if we want 2-digit, this one we do as, and if we start with as, there should be string, no string, yeah, as a string, then curly braces, format, for example, y, okay, unable to resolve reference of as a string. Okay, this one should be y, like this. No, okay. As a string. What about 4 letters? No. Wow. So this is the documentation on the website, and if it is here, we can do as a string format y. What did I miss here? Oh, okay, okay. I don't put here. I don't need to put these things, because if I just do datetime.now, it will give me the default one. That was a mistake I made. So this should be datetime, the object itself, the full one. From that, we want to extract. We can specify the format we want. So if I do single y versus double y, okay. So you see, if it is single y, it is a default. It gives 4 digits of year. If I do 2, it gives. If I do double y, it gives 2 digits. 3 also, it gets back to 4. Yeah, that's it. So if you just want 4 digits, which is a default, you can put y or you leave it. If you want 2 digits, you just do yy. Okay, months also, let's just copy this and put it here. As I said, we don't want to put dot months. We want to pass the whole datetime object. And if I do m, this is month 9 numeric. Okay, I think lowercase m is minute. What about if I do double m? It gives in 2 digits. So here it pads it with 0 when it is less than 10, as you can see. Double m, it gives 2 digits. And if I do 3, you see now it changed to sep. If I do 4, then it gives the whole, it spells it out, September. So these things, you don't need to remember it, but when you need it, you can just refer to the documentation. Make sure there are these, just remember that there are these functionalities, and using these functionalities, you can easily control it in the format you want. So let's see more examples here. So we have seen months. Let's call this month 1. And it is the same month, but just in a different format. So I would just call this month 2. And if we do 2, it pads it with 0. Okay, so see the difference now. If we just do single M, it is numeric. It will just give 9. So let me start with single M and make this format 4. If we just do M, which is the default, is 9. Double M is 09 padded with 0. Triple M is Sep, and 4M is corresponds to September. Our also, let's see how to specify the date format. I mean, the format is, do you want it out of to be out of 24 or out of 12? And for that, I think it is, hey, I guess, let's see, or let's see, if I put H, it is out of H, or is, oh. So, okay, like to mean 24, I guess, shows 12. Okay, if I do uppercase H, it is 0. But if I do, because here as you can see, since it is 0, 0, this is our. So if I do see H, it shows 12. But if I do, let's put this as our 1, format 1 for hour, and format 2 for hour. If we do uppercase H, then it is 0. Probably we can put
H24.
Yeah, yeah. Single H is also okay. What's the difference? Yeah, I think
24.
add 24 here. You mean?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see in the documentation. It says H is 0 to 23, and uppercase H is 0 to 23.
No.
Okay. So are you saying if I put 24, it will make it from 1 to 24?
Try it. We can try.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so H or single H, uppercase H should be fine. Day of week also, let's copy this here and bring it here. Day of week, let's say, what formats do we have for day of week? We bring this here. See day of week here. I guess, is it here? Day of, okay. Yeah, we have this format. No one is required to remember this. You just to do it when you want it. You just consult the documentation and do it. So we have 4E versus 3E versus 2E versus E. Let's check that. So let's start with 4E. Saturday, day of week. Okay, what did I do? The string format. Okay, it shows as Saturday. Now copy this. So this is 1, this is 2, let's do 3. So this one now becomes Sat, and so on. So yeah, you can consult this documentation. I think we should not spend more than this on this things. So I have added the link to it here, and practice with it, please. You don't need to remember it, but just practicing it will help you to understand what it is doing. So I will test this here too. Okay. Now you may encounter this one also, or when you have a reference date time, you may want to create it yourself, have to code it rather than using a function. So to create dates and times, you can use vertical lines. So this one, as you can see, it is using vertical lines 20, 22, 08, 30. So this one, it knows it is date, local date. So if I put like this, you see here, and I can check the type of it. And it shows date, as you can see. And if we want time, we just add t, and we add, like this one, for example, is 10:30 a.m. So this one now, it is going to say local time because it doesn't have time zone information. As you can see, local date time. This is another data type. So far, the data types we have seen are arrays, objects, string, number, and date. This is date data type, and this is local date time data type. You can also put the time zone, like this one, for example, is 10:30 a.m. time zone. So the time zone here, if it is to the west of the U2C region, we just put minus. So this is U2C -5. So if I copy this, it is going to tell me this is not local time, rather it is going to tell me not local date time, but rather date time, because it has time zone information. And you can also extract the time zone from this one. Let me show you again. I think in that documentation, there should be a way to get time zone as well. So yeah, if you do VV here, it gives you the time zone. It has different formats. You can extract the time zone. And if the time zone is, for example, not in the time zone, or you want to be, if your data, this is very common, for example, at work for me, the data we get different data sets, and they are in different time zones, but we want to use Pacific time zone, Amazon's location most of the time. So we have to check the time zone and convert it to the same time zone. So that way you can get the time zone as well. Okay, so we have seen date data type and local date time. Let me remove this. If I simply remove this time zone information, as you can see, it changes it to local date time. There is no space here. So this is local date time data type. Whereas this one is simply date time because it has time zone information. So these are the most commonly used data types that we have seen. Okay, and another way, okay, so far we saw to create date and time or date time data, we can use function like now, or we can use this vertical lines. We can also convert string data to date time. Usually, let's say, for example, you have an Excel data, and one of the columns is date time information, but it is, when you import it, it is a string. So you simply convert it by doing like this. So this string, or the column name, payload.datetime, as date, will convert it to date, like this one. It converts it to date. This one, as you can see, also, if I put as date time, this one, it will convert it to a local date time because it doesn't have time zone information. whereas this one, it is going to convert it, that the data type would be simply date type. Let's check this one. So this is simply date. Type of, as you can see, it simply shows it is date. That is easy. This one, it should say local date time because it doesn't have time zone information. Well, so it makes it in UTC, I think by default, it seems. Okay. Yeah, so it is date time. Even if you don't provide time zone, the data type is date time. Makes it, when you have a string and convert it to date time, it assumes it is, I guess, UTC. We can check the time zone of this one, and it is going to say it is UTC. Let's check. So if I do this, and for getting the time zone, the function was, I mean, the format was this one, ZZ or VV. If I bring it here, as a string format ZZ, as you can see, it shows Z, and Z means UTC time. So when you have because it is unknown, I think when you give it string date time even without time zone, that assumes it is in UTC time. Okay, so both of them are in UTC. This is UTC date time. This one also the same thing. By the way, this may confuse you. So this one is also, we have explicitly specified the time zone. So if I give the time zone for this one, it is going to tell me it is EST. Let's check this one. Based on the format, it can give me -5, EST, and so on. So that is why we have different formats. Okay, here I have to make sure this is string. If I do like this, as date time, so it shows -5. If I put VV, maybe it will give me the name. Oh, it was, what do we have? The other one, oh, it is uppercase V's. Uppercase V's. Okay. Still the same. Yeah, you can check. There should be a way to get the time zone name also. Okay, since we have only 10 minutes, I will move faster. So this one, it says check the time zone of B and C above. We have checked one of them. You can check the other one also the same way. This one was what we got when we do. Let me copy this, by the way. Easy. Bring it here. I can minimize the size, maybe. This one, it will give Z, we said, so. It gives Z, which is UTC. UTC. Okay. Now another function. So we said we are working with a core module. There are different modules. We will see some of them, the most commonly used ones. The core modules, the functions, we don't need to import them to use them. They are by default imported. But the other modules, we cannot use them if we don't import them. So we'll see that next time. Like, for example, this one is very important module. We'll see how to process a string. So let's review other functions from the core module too. And one of them is days between. It gives the days between two dates or date time formats. This is very important. For example, you may want to, based on the difference between two data, you may want to filter your data, or you may want to, let's say, delete all the data and so on. So days between is very important function. So here we are calculating the days between January 2021 and now. So if I just copy this and bring it here, it should give me the number of days, the difference, 259. That's one function from the core module. You can read the documentation one by one. Another one, other ones that we saw before are concatenation, double plus for concatenation, and its behavior. It depends on what you are concatenating. Is it arrays, is it characters, or is it objects, is what we are seeing here. So the first one, when we have two arrays, it gives a new array, as you can see here. So what do we see here? See, it is an object. The key is result, and its value is this one concatenated with this one. So the output will be, it will simply concatenate this array and this array. If I simply take this out and paste it here, you see both of them concatenated. 0, 1, 2, ABC. The output is here, as you can see. And simply making it an object by adding a key doesn't make any changes. So simply we are here adding this array, the output of this array, we are making a value for the result key. Otherwise, there is no any new thing. Here also, we have another key value object. So the object name is A. See, we have this array, and we are concatenating to it this array. So you see this array, we are seeing this is kind of nested array. We have under this array, we have this array and also another object. So an array can contain anything. So if we concatenate this, simply this part as it is will come here. The key is still only A. So if we copy it here and bring it here, so you see, let me maximize it. So you see we have only one key, outer key, which is A. Under that, if I click this square bracket, you see it in this here. So it is this array. And under it, you see this 2 has come here, and this one is an inner array within that array, and the object is also here. The main take-home message here is the concatenation. It depends on what you are concatenating, so you have to understand its behavior. Simply, if you are concatenating characters, it is easy. Here, mule and soft, if it brings them together. Whereas when you concatenate two objects, let's see the difference. In one and two here, we are concatenating objects. And the first one, as you can see, okay, so what are we doing here? The key is concat, then the value is this object, and to this object, we are concatenating another object. So let me copy paste it and show you. Remove, paste. Okay, so it is simply concatenating this one and this one. We can remove the concat, for example. If simply remove this and this, so we have this key value pairs, another key value pairs, so it gives us an object with all key value pairs together. We call it flattened. So this one, this CC comes in here, and the output of that, we are assigning it to some key. The difference, the second one, see the difference with the second one. With the second one, it is in here, this concatenation was with this one, So it was in here, whereas in the second one, it is outer concatenation. So we'll have two keys. From A, the outer key is just concat, but now we have two keys, this one and this one. So concat will have these values. Concat is the key, and these values will be this one. And CC will have this key. Let's copy paste it and see. So observe the difference between 1 and 2. Or if you don't notice it now, just run it yourself and you detect it. So you see, we have two keys now. Concat is 1 and CC is 1. Okay. And this one you can practice it yourself. Double minus is opposite. It removes. Like for example, from let's say we have this one from an array. The key is A. We have these array values. Then we are removing any one in the two values. So it will remove any ones and twos. So it will the final value will be A0. See this one. If I copy it and bring it here, you see A0 because one and two have been removed. And key value also, you can remove also key values. And if you don't specify, I mean, if you specify the keys, you don't need to specify the values. It just removes all keys based on the keys. If it is an object, this one, let's see what we are doing. So we have hello world, name, DW, and we want to remove this hello world. So it removed this one. We are left with name DW. Or we can also simply remove the hello key. If I do like this also, okay. We have, let's see in the second, in this one, it should be an array. Okay. If you want to remove only keys, it should be an array. That makes sense. So if we have an object and if we want to remove from it, we can pass what we want to remove as key value pairs, which will be an object, or we can simply pass an array of the keys that we want to remove. And that is this one. This one shows that. Let me copy it and show you. So paste it here. So what are we doing? We have yes, good, and old are the keys. Now we want to remove keys with yes and old, whatever the values are. So it will remove them, and we are left with this one only, because this one, yes, is removed. This one also, old, is removed. So you can practice that. And we have these other functions that we saw. This one's also just consult the documentation. It is easy. Is odd, checks if it is odd. Is even, checks if a number is even. Is empty, it checks if it is empty. Split by, it split a text, some string. Let's see this one, for example, I guess. Split by, let's see. This is lowercase s, split by, let's say, mules. Let's just do like this, and we want to split it based on space. Then you see it changes it to an array, and it splits it. It splits it. It can be based on white space or characters, or there are also regular expressions and so on, but it is beyond the scope of this class. But if we have dot, for example, also I can do dot here and split it like this. We have seen this. The other function we saw before is to. It creates an array. One good thing about to, let me show you. So let's say 1 to 10 creates an array from 1 to 10, 10 to 1 in reverse order. So the question here is reverses this array. So we have this array, and we have seen array indexing. If I just do this array, the first element, a bracket of 0. Oh, I guess these characters, they came from doc end. They look weird. It doesn't know that. Okay. This the E and F. So now the first element is basically A, and the second element is B, and so on. Or the last element -1 is F, -2 is the last, the second from the last, and so on. Now, if we want to reverse this, how can we reverse it? Simply, if I do 1 to 4, it is going to give me, as you can see, it gave me from here to here. Whereas if I want to reverse it, we have how many elements? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I simply do 6 to 0, or 6 to 1. Oh, but to reverse it, we start from -1 to -6. Yeah, it is in negative order. So -1 is F, -2 is E, -3 is D, and so on. Because this array, this one, it is going to create an array that's my head is frozen. So if we do this, by the way, we don't need to put it within square brackets. -1 to -6, it creates this array, as you can see. So -1, -2. If you have some array and if you want to reverse it, you can use this. And the other thing is, you don't want to put it in an array. If you put it in an array, then it will be of size 1. It is only the inner array that will have a size of 6. Okay. And we have trim. This is also a very common function. Trim, we use it to remove any blank spaces. Practice with that also. Like if you have any string, let's say this one, ABC, there is white space in the beginning and in the end. So trim removes the white space in the beginning and in the end, as you can see here. That one is an important function from the core module. There are, this one is also, we are over time already, you can practice them, but ends with checks if a string ends with something, starts with, it checks if it starts with something, contains, it checks if some string contains some characters, because you may want to filter your data or aggregate it based on these conditions. They are very important. And lower changes it to lowercase, upper changes it to uppercase, any string, some numbers up, some array, round is just rounding, floor, it rounds it down, mode, it gives you the remainder, minimum and the maximum, they give you minimum and the maximum. POW also gives you the power of something, like 2 to the power of 3 or 3 to the power of 2, and so on. All of these things with their examples, they're in the documentation. So these are under the core module. So practice with that. I think this is enough for today. And we are going to continue with the other modules before we go to detailed or more advanced DataWeave functionalities. We want to just see the core module and some of the modules that they have here. And as I said, once you practice this, then once you understand it, you don't need to remember it. Just you can consult the documentation when you need it. Okay, perfect. I will stop sharing.